I try to challenge our fools to a tournament too.
What? What do you mean? What do you mean a tournament? Oh, you mean in the group chat?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. I think I must have been at a showing or something. But I saw it and I was just, I like put my phone back in my pocket, kind of like shaking my head because someone in the group chat, I don't know if it was you or someone else, brought up Madden, and I was just like, they will never learn, will they?
I'm telling you, bro. I'm gonna do like a summer, just straight trivia, slash. I'm actually going to test all you guys' knowledge. I'm gonna go to y'all cribs. I'm gonna beat y'all to make sure y'all eat, and I'm going. That's all it's gonna be.
Duran, we've had this discussion before.
Yes, you're second best to me. Remember that.
In Madden?
Yes, remember that. Okay, it's okay. It's okay to be second.
Oh my goodness!
I understand, Prince. You are first in a lot of things. I get it, but in that particular thing, you are number two.
Don't do this. Duran, anyone who knows the two of us knows.
As a fluke.
Knows that I cannot be touched in Madden. We know this. This has been a fact that's been proven for decades, Duran.
Listen.
Literally decades. At least 2 decades.
Chris Johnson is a cheat code, okay? Outside of that person, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Duran, here's the thing.
It's okay.
You act like you only played me in Madden when Chris Johnson was in the league. Have you forgotten Eddie George? Do you forget that the Titans have Derrick Henry now?
I'm not worried about him. It's okay. Hey, second place is a nice place to be.
Okay. You know what? Nigel, Steve, Cardell, if you guys are listening to this right now, please talk some sense into this man so that I do not go to his crib and me and him end up getting into a shouting match because I bust his ass in Madden again. Please talk some sense into this man. He won't listen, guys. He won't listen. He will never learn.
Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Anyway,
I can't wait. World Tour.
Welcome back, folks, to another episode of the New Block Nerds podcast. And welcome back to another episode of Tuesday Thrones. I am your host, Chris, a.k.a. Prince, with the homie and co-host, soon to be food on the Madden sticks.
You must say living legend Madden player, Duran, aka Medic Grizz. It's okay. Duran. I said it for you. I finished it for you, bro. I got you.
Stop. I'm not gonna let you get away with this on the pod. You know, and I know, at least in our friend group, I am the king of Madden. Don't try to deny this. Don't try to deny this, because I'll be forced to prove myself, and I don't want to have to do that to you.
We can go live one time, play Madden for the fans and see. I just want you to know that, okay? Do you still remember how to play? Like you know how to play Madden, right? Like
You know what, man?
Like you need.
Next time I see you, you better have the game ready, dog. You better have the game ready. I want to hear no fucking excuses about your controller wasn't working, about the game glitched up or some shit.
No,
I don't want to hear none of those excuses,
bro. You got it.
I don't want to hear no excuses. You hear me? None.
Right, so I'll make sure you have some tissue here for you when you cry afterwards. It's okay.
Anyway, guys, welcome back. We're back in Westeros. I'm gonna ignore Duran. We're just gonna get to it. We were talking Ned Stark last week. We are still in the north. This time we are not going south. We're going north to the wall with one Tyrion Lannister. Duran, we were kind of talking a little bit off air about this, why we love Tyrion chapters so much. I really like this chapter because it gives you some classic Tyrion of just him kind of being super observant and just kind of taking in things, but also having a little bit of heart as well too, where he's watching Jon's reaction to some of the captives that are going north to the wall with him. And he's starting to kind of realize that, the wall is not maybe as noble of a cause as it was maybe pitched to him. Like Tyrion kind of feels bad for him because he feels like maybe he's been sold a false bill of goods here about the honor of being a Night's Watch brother. So, um, it is kind of funny to see because it seems like everyone else understands what the Night Watch has become. Maybe at some point they were, a very honorable institution, but now it's just become a place where you send the worst criminals, your rapists, your thieves, and all these kinds of things. So I don't know. What you think about that overall kind of just like atmosphere?
It was kind of like Santa Claus Tooth Fairy type vibe. Like John had this like the legend of being a part of the wall and how it was a great honor bestowed him. And then like that's like child's dream, child's fantasy. And then when you go out and pass, you start going north and you realize, hey, they're picking up more people to go to the north. And they smell, their attire is not even like recognizable to be of honor. And like just overall, why are you even here? Oh, you committed a crime. It's like you have a bunch of misfits there. And then you have Tyrion's back there looking like this guy doesn't know anything. It's like his dreams is breaking in front of him. And then you see him like, darn, he really didn't know. And so when Tyrion being Tyrion's like, well, you're going to learn the hard way. Just say, hey, I feel for you, but you got to learn. And this is what it's going to be. And then it even goes to the point of how Tyrion is who he is. And like, he is a midget. He's a dwarf. He's like, that's what he is. So he can't physically do what everyone else does. So when it comes down to breaking down the camp and doing different things, it shows a part of him where he has to like focus on what he's good at. So he gets out the way. He reads books and he reads gains a lot of knowledge there. And that's how he is very crafty and how like it even mentioned how he read about the maps, but he never is totally different walking the terrain. How the north is not the maps give it no justice of how the wear and tear, how the weather is, how it's a brutal journey being up here. But you wouldn't, most people wouldn't know that at all. But by him reading the books and him being a scholar, because that's what he felt he has to be to stand out. And then seeing John just absorbing everything and realizing that the world is different outside those walls. It's a good combo.
Yeah, and I love that quote that Tyrion has in here. Where he's kind of talking to John, and John's like, why do you read so much? And he's like, look at me and tell me what you see. Do you see a warrior? Do you see a fighter? You see someone who's going to become some great lord one day? No. My brother Jaime, he has his sword. Queen Cersei has her looks. But I mean, look at me. I'm smart, and a brain needs books like a blade needs a whetstone. I love that quote because it's like that's how he hones his skills. That's how he becomes the person that he ultimately becomes because he is so smart, because he's so witty, because he's so crafty, like you said. He's so cunning, like he's constantly thinking of solutions, right?
And also shows that John being so kind. John's like, you're Tyrion, like you're a guy. He's not even thinking or looking at him any kind of way. It's like, oh, you're such a good person. But no, that's not how the world sees me.
Right. Well, it's just a little bit of naivety too, right? With John being, a 14-year-old child at this point, right? He just, and he is a little skeptical of Tyrion because Tyrion is known for being kind of, a smart ass. So when like Tyrion asks him, look at me, tell me what you see, and he's like, is this some kind of trick? What do you mean? You know what I mean? And Tyrion's like, no, it's not that deep, kid. Not that deep. But to your point, seeing some of the Night's Watchmen when Benjen and Tyrion in their party meet up with Yorn, who's a Night's Watch brother, and they're picking up these poachers and these rapists and these thieves. It sheds a light not just on John but on the readers as well, right? Because the last that we've learned of a Night's Watch person other than Benjen was the prologue.
Yes.
Right? And we see that, or we see what their primary job probably used to be thousands of years ago, was to ward off whatever the hell Waymar Royce and his crew ran into out there. But over time, it's clearly gotten dwindled down to a joke, frankly, right, in Westeros. So I think it it adds a little bit more to the setting of where Westeros is as a realm politically, right? With what's going on north of the wall and what we know is out there, even though we got that little taste in the prologue and haven't had a whiff of it since.
Yes. Even like Benjamin like talks about how the older people still remember the times of the past. And then also Tyrion reading the book and learning more about dragon and dragon glass. Like they're just dropping a lot of gems now in this particular chapter that watching the show, you're like, ooh, this is how it all got into. Like now I know what this is. But if you're as a reader and it's the first time actually hearing these terms, you're like, oh, okay, cool. It's something that's very shiny. It's black. It's more durable. It's just like steel, but you can do more things with it. Our archer will love to have it. Like, okay, these are really cool things. And then it talks about the past of 300 years ago and the dragons and how you can actually walk in your mouth and through it and everything. It's like how the dragons were and how the kingdom was 300 years ago.
Right.
To what it is now. It's you would not know that without the books. So you need someone like Tyrion to actually show and the readers to actually know the great history and how rich it really was. And then you bring to your point of how it is now and how it's more about the political side. How even when the new hand of the king, he's like, hey, Ned's like, I don't want to do all this. Like it's not the way of what I want it to be. It just shows the whole dynamic is totally different.
Yeah, no, that's a great point you bring up too, because they do give us a little bit more exposition about just the last 300 years in Westeros and kind of how this realm came to be, right? So they talk a little bit about Aegon the Conqueror and how they talk about the Field of Fire, which was just one of his battles that he participated in, where all three of the original dragons, Balerion, Meraxes, and Vagar were all used in the same battle all at once, which that's just fucking overkill. I mean,
bro, like
one is more than enough, and they brought all three fully grown dragons and just laid waste to people.
Off subject, but not really off subject. That's why this television program by HBO Max of House of the Dragons, like for me, like now, like having connections of what these are, and seeing how massive these creatures are, and then seeing how the kingdom was and how ruthless even the people that ruled the dragons were. It's the one thing about having a dragon, but the personality of the person is there has that match in it. It goes to a different level, and then you have all three of them. It's this.
Yeah, well, and and not to get off topic, but it is kind of, it's hard to not have maybe a mellow personality when you're riding a nuclear warhead.
At any point in time, just go.
Yeah. So, but anyways, getting back to Tyrion. Again, yeah, man, I love his fascination with history.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it shows that he's set himself apart, from a intelligence level with most people in Westeros, right? Being able to have that interest in history and dragons and in politics and stuff like that, which is why Tyrion ends up being so good at what he does, right? Because he's always operating a step ahead of everyone else. What did you think just about Tyrion being paired up with Jon again, going north? They talk a lot about just like the sheer size of the North, right? I mean, Robert talked about it a little bit in the last chapter, but I think the chapter starts out with Tyrion saying, the North seemed to go on forever, and they were on their 18th day. Like Winterfell was already pretty far north, but they're going all the way to the wall, and so like on horseback, it's a long journey. This isn't like a couple of day trip. This is it's going to be months before you can make it back to King's Landing.
And I thought it was I liked the fact that it was such a emphasizing long journey, because as you know later in the story it shows how it explains the pacing of how you can bounce around other chapters and how why they're not there yet, because this journey is it's extenuous. It's very long. Like it's to get through these things is not a day trip. You have to actually plan the weather elements, everything, and then during this journey you see the back and forth, the tit for tat between the Stark's history and the Lannister's history, and how you see how Lannister's like, I'm paraphrasing, like we will never deny anything. We'll take it and then use it to our advantage. And they were talking about just the fact of like how they are just takers, and it goes back to even like when King Robert, now they just opportunists. They hop in
Yep.
when they have to and they get what they have to. So you're up there, hey, you're gonna offer me a coat? Hey, I'm take it. Thinking you're gonna show me up. No, I need it. And if you're gonna offer, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna use you.
Yeah, I need it because it's cold as shit. Yeah, it's like the end of summer up here, and it's still snowing. Like,
Yeah, so I'm not gonna
yeah, I'm
be
gonna
too.
take it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take everything you give me because I'm gonna make sure I make it to this journey. I don't care about everything else. I want to make sure that I am there, and it shows you how the Lannisters think, and that's just what they are. So it's really cool showing that this is how like the journey can break you down before you even get to where you have to go.
Yeah, no, it's brutal up there in the North, man, and they talk about it all the time throughout the books. The North is made. It's a hard land full of hard people for hard times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but kind of getting back to kind of the crux of the chapter, which is Tyrion and Jon. Well, Tyrion breaking it to Jon, but Jon also realizing that the Night's Watch is kind of a joke. Jon gets really emotional, as a 14-year-old kid does. He realizes that he's about to commit his life to this cause that isn't even really a cause. Which is sad, right? Because, again, we talked about it before. He feels like he can't really go anywhere anyways, right? Like there's no place for him in Winterfell, certainly. Rob's going to be Lord of Winterfell. They've got plenty of kids. Like there's no place for him, not for a bastard in Winterfell. So he gets angry, and Ghost kind of comes and gives Tyrion a nice little fuck you.
And the thing with Ghost though,
And
it's so cool how they did it because like it seemed like Tyrion was getting like, darn, maybe I broke it to him too hard. Let me go try to get my pat in the back. And the next thing you know, I'm flat on my ass because Ghost put me there. Like no sound or nothing. He just puts you on your ass, and like it just showed you that he's Ghost. He plays no games, looking at you the whole time.
And again, they reiterate in here too that Ghost makes no sound.
Yes.
That he doesn't growl, he doesn't howl, doesn't bark, he doesn't do any of that. He's just all about action all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, again, I feel like that's just a little hint of, hey man, these dire wolves are fucking dangerous. These things are dangerous.
I think also the cool thing about this is maybe I'm like foreshadowing and thinking about the future. I'm curious because like now I feel like I don't know the full truth. I know half of the story because of watching the show versus what the books are going to enlighten me on. It shows you the beginning of a decent friendship. It shows you like a respect thing because it shows like Jon knows that hey, he's going to tell me straight how it is in Tyrion, and then Tyrion's like, dude, he's not trying to beat me. He's a really genuine guy in Jon, and I'm just if I can just lead him in the right way and talk to him and tell him what's going on, it's a real legit conversation. There's no schemes. Jon's going to just tell you how he feels. It's like, hey, it's an honor system. And everyone else is like, oh, if you do this, I'm going to do that. It's like a tip or tat type thing. When those two speak, it's not like that.
Yeah, no, that's a great point that you bring up, and that's something that I feel like this show, like on the last season, kind of gave us a little bit, maybe of a hint of the future of these two characters when they hopefully inevitably reconnect. Is that there was always a little bit of a level of respect there between these two, right? And you see that where sometimes in these interactions, Jon will ask him some questions, and Tyrion's the only one who gives it to him straight, but also doesn't give it to him in a way where it's just gonna rip his heart out of his chest, but like kind of give him a little bit of wisdom. He's kind of giving the youngin some game here. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which I give Tyrion a lot of credit for that because he has nothing to gain by giving Jon some wisdom. Jon's a nobody to him.
Facts.
You know what I mean? He's a nobody to him. So like it kind of gives you a little bit of more info about who Tyrion is as a person, as compared to some other people in the story. But it's a great chapter, man. I mean, it's really just about Tyrion kind of breaking it to Jon, and Jon kind of realizing the reality of what the Night's Watch has become. Again, we talked about a little bit of exposition you get about Aegon and his dragons and how kind of the realm came to be. So I like how George gives us little pieces of exposition, little pieces of history throughout these chapters, because it's not like, you open the prologue and it's like, long ago, this happened, blah, 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 and it sets the whole setting for the rest of the story. It's like, here's where we are, but every now and again, we're going to give you some info about how we got to this point.
Yeah, I freaking love it. I can't wait, because like now I'm looking forward to the next Tyrion chapter or next Jon chapter and seeing, okay, like a little bit of knowledge as he gains what's going to happen now, the next reaction when he actually walks through the wall and actually sees everything.
Right.
So
right.
It's really cool to see that.
Yeah, so great chapter. I mean, again, it's a Tyrion chapter. I'm always looking forward to Tyrion chapters. We are back in Winterfell next week with Duran's favorite, Lady Catelyn.
Yay,
So we'll be back here next week. Thanks, guys, for hanging out, and we'll see you guys in Winterfell next week.
Peace and love.